Thank you. Ms. Daniel Davis, last month in New Mexico, there was a reprehensible criminal attack on petroglyphs on public land at La Cienega site near Santa Fe. Someone defaced images that had been left there by ancient Puebloans centuries, if not millennia ago. The damage that was done, to some degree, some of it may be irreversible. It may never be able to be undone. But we can work to make sure that people who desecrate sacred spaces on public lands are held accountable and to prevent those kinds of attacks in the future. So I wanted to ask, in particular, what is BLM doing to investigate this particular crime? And then how seriously is the BLM taking the protection of cultural sites on the Caja del Rio Plateau writ large?
Thanks, Senator. And this criminal desecration is unacceptable and, unbelievably sad. And it's a top priority for the Bureau of Land Management to figure out what happened and to bring the criminals to justice. The BLM agents and rangers are working directly with the FBI, with the Santa Fe County Sheriff's Office in this matter. There's been a lot of outreach to local groups to see if there's any information about who might have been in that area when this happened. And moreover, the Taos BLM office has recently hired a new a law enforcement ranger to increase patrols, here and elsewhere. I do think that, the support in the FY22 budget, and I know you're all working very hard on that, to support the BLM and the rebuilding of the BLM can only help in terms of these law enforcement challenges out on a very wide and important landscape.
What portion of the BLM's budget goes to law enforcement?
Senator, that is a great question, and I don't know the answer off the top of my head, but I'm
Let's
happy to
find
get
that
back
out,
to you.
because
Yes, sir.
my experience, having been an outfitter guide, is it's not enough. It is rare to see law enforcement out on the ground on public lands, and that problem goes beyond the BLM. It applies to the Forest Service and the Park Service as well, but I think in particular Interior. New Mexico is home to two of the newest national monuments, the Rio Grande del Norte Monument in Taos County, which you are intimately familiar with, and the Organ Mountains Desert Peaks National Monument near Las Cruces. However, even though it's been nearly a decade since these were designated, neither monument has ever had a finalized monument management plan. What's the status of the planning process for both of these, and can the Taos and Las Cruces communities when can they expect those plans to be finished?
So, Senator, the BLM is very focused on the planning process for both of these. I think it's not as far along as any of us would want, and I know that they are working to determine what a timeline is that will allow them to, kind of tackle this and get it done. Again, I have to reflect that the previous reorganization of the BLM, in which they lost over 300 employees, and the need to sort of build back, and it has certainly had an impact on this. But I really want to assure you, Senator, it's a high priority. BLM is very proud of these areas and wants to be sure that they have a functioning plan.
Ms. Robinson, I want to ask you about our high voltage grid, our transmission grid in particular. Much of it's based on technology, I should say maybe equipment rather than technology that is 70 years old. What can DOE and the Congress do to incentivize more rapid implementation of some of the grid technologies that we are seeing implemented very successfully around the world that can give us more transmission capacity in the short run, in addition to building new transmission? So things like power flow controls, dynamic line rating with real-time sensors and management, reconductoring of existing transmission. It seems like the financial models that many of our utilities work on don't incentivize those technologies because they're not big, expensive projects that can be rate-based. How can we get those technologies out onto the grid faster?
Thank you so much, Senator. And I share your concern about getting those smart grid technologies out onto the grid. You may have seen PNNL just released a great report about transactive power, which is using a lot of those same technologies, and the potential $50 billion in savings to consumers if we're able to do that across the entire nation's grid. So certainly that creates a wonderful starting point, as well as INL's grid testbed to put those to test right away. Looking forward to working through the smart grid integration program and the funding through the bipartisan infrastructure bill as well to continue quick deployment of all these technologies. But certainly there's a ton of efficiencies that we can utilize now to get an increasing amount of capacity on our existing infrastructure.
Yeah, I would just leave you with the idea that we don't need more pilot projects. These things have been tested and tested and tested. We need a better grid. So hope you're up to the task. Thank you, Madam Chair.